effect is also expected to be absent. So these are positives for us. Taking all these factors into consideration and therefore assuming a normal monsoon, CPI inflation for the financial year 25-26 this year is projected at 4%, with Q1 at 3.6%, Q2 at 3.9%, Q3 at 3.8%, and Q4 slightly higher at 4.4%. The risks are evenly balanced. I now will be speaking on the external sector. India's services exports remained resilient in January, February of this year, driven by software, business, and transportation services. Going forward, net services and remittances receipts are expected to remain in large surplus, partly offsetting the trade deficit. The current account deficit for last year as well as this year, 25-26, are expected to remain well within the sustainable level. On the financing side, gross foreign direct investment, FDI, remained strong during the period of April 24 to January 25. Last year, which is the latest data, period for which we have the latest data, reflecting India's strong macroeconomic fundamentals. Net FDI, however, moderated sharply during this period due to higher repatriations and outward FDI. Net FPI inflows to India stood at $1.7 billion during 24-25, supported by debt inflows as the equity segment recorded net outflows. This is much lower than what we had last year. External commercial borrowings and non-resident deposits, on the other hand, witnessed higher net inflows compared to that last year. As on 4th April 2025, India's foreign exchange reserves stood at $676.3 billion, providing an import cover of about 11 months. Overall, India's sector remains resilient as the key indicators stay robust. I will now be talking about the liquidity and the financial market conditions. System liquidity was in deficit in January 2025, with net injection under the liquidity adjustment facility scaling a peak of more than 3 lakh crore rupees, in fact 3.1 lakh crore rupees on 23rd January 2025. However, as a result of a slew of measures, and I'll not go into the details thereof, you are all aware of them, of the various OMOs, the CRR rate cut, the swaps that we have done. The system liquidity deficit tapered, therefore, during last 2 months of February and March, and further it turned into a surplus on 29th March 2025. Further, coupled with the government spending picking up pace during the latter half of last month, March, the system liquidity further improved and it stood at a surplus of 1.5 lakh crore as on 7th April 2025, and even yesterday it was 1.4 lakh crore rupees of surplus. Reflecting these developments, the weighted average call rate softened and remained near the repo rate since the last policy meeting. The spreads of 3-month CP and 3-month CD rates over the 91-day Treasury bill rate have also softened since the second half of March, suggesting an improvement in liquidity conditions. I would like to mention over here again, I am reiterating this, I have said this earlier, which is that the Reserve Bank is committed to provide sufficient system liquidity. We will continue to monitor the evolving liquidity and financial market conditions and proactively take appropriate measures to ensure that there is adequate liquidity in the system. Coming to financial stability, well, I do not have much to add from my previous policy statement in February. Things are more or less looking similar. The financial soundness parameters of the banking sector continue to be robust. The liquidity buffer in the banking system is well above the regulatory threshold. Profitability indicators are also healthy, reflecting robust operational efficiency of the system. Similarly, the system-level parameters of NBFCs too are very sound. Now, as has been the practice, I shall be announcing some additional measures. This time I have 6 additional measures to announce to all of you, and these relate to banking regulation, fintech, and payment systems. First, we propose to enable securitization of stressed assets through market-based mechanism. There is already a mechanism of securitization of standard assets. The same is now proposed to extend with modification to stressed assets, and I may add that this is in addition and this is not in lieu of the existing ARC route under the SARFAESI Act of 2002. Second, we have guidelines on co-lending. They are presently applicable only to arrangements between banks and NBFCs. Moreover, they are restricted to priority sector loans. To exploit the huge potential of such lending arrangements, it is proposed now to extend these to all regulated entities and to all loans, priority sector or even outside the priority sector. Third, loans against the collateral of gold, jewelry, and ornaments, commonly known as gold loans, are extended by regulated entities, both banks and NBFCs, for both consumption and income generation purposes, in order to harmonize guidelines across various types of regulated entities to the extent possible, keeping in view their differential risk-bearing capabilities. We shall issue comprehensive regulations on prudential norms as well as conduct-related aspects for such loans. Fourth, to harmonize the regulations governing non-fund-based facilities across regulated entities, we propose to issue comprehensive guidelines. Instructions related to partial credit enhancement by regulated entities are also proposed to be revised. This is also, if you would recall, a budget announcement relating to NABFID by the Honorable Finance Minister in her budget speech for this year. This is expected to broaden funding sources for infrastructure financing. The draft of these 4 guidelines and regulations are being published today itself for public consultation, and we shall finalize these guidelines based on the feedback received. The other 2 announcements relate to, first of all, enabling NPCI to decide in consultation with the banks and other stakeholders the transaction limits in UPI for person-to-merchant.
There once lived a Ranveer who loved his Nutella. But Ranveer also loved his breads. But here is the twist that makes it the hottest.
For the needs of the economy. I may also clarify over here that the P2P transaction limit, which is 1 lakh rupees as of now, will remain the same, and there is no change with regard to the regulations in regard to P2P or person-to-person payment transaction limits. The other and the last measure that I have to announce today is regarding the regulatory sandbox. We are making it theme neutral and on tap. At present, there are actually 4 themes on which people and businesses can work on this sandbox. Now we are making it theme neutral and on tap. Necessary directions for the implementation of these 2 measures shall be issued separately. To conclude, the global economy is going through a period of exceptional uncertainties. The difficulty to extract signal from a noisy and uncertain environment poses challenges for policy making. Nevertheless, monetary policy can play a vital anchoring role in ensuring that the economy remains on an even keel. In our context, as I mentioned earlier, the growth inflation trajectory demands monetary policy to be growth supportive while being watchful on the inflation front. We are aiming for a non-inflationary growth that is built on the foundations of an improved demand and supply response and sustained macroeconomic balance. As before, we shall remain agile and decisive in our response and put in place policies that are clear, consistent, credible, and in the best interest of the economy. Thank you, Namaskar, and Jai Hind.
चलिए तो शॉर्ट एंड स्वीट स्टेटमेंट कुछ देर बाद जब Q&A होगा उसमें थोड़े से और सवाल पूछे जाएंगे, लेकिन सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट डिसीजन जो लिया गया वो है रेपो रेट कट 25 बेसिस पॉइंट का एक्सपेक्टेड लाइन पर 6% पर। जो एक कयास लगाया जा रहा था कि स्टांस में चेंज होगा या नहीं होगा, स्टांस में भी चेंज किया गया है, अकोमोडेटिव स्टांस किया गया है न्यूट्रल से। और अगर आप गवर्नर साहब की बॉडी लैंग्वेज देख रहे थे तो एक चीज़ बहुत क्लियर थी, अब इन्फ्लेशन को लेकर उनको इतना रिस्क नहीं लग रहा है। उन्होंने क्लियरली कहा कि ग्लोबल टैरिफ वॉर की वजह से अगर इन्फ्लेशन पर करेंसी की वजह से अपवर्ड प्रेशर आया भी तो उससे ज़्यादा उसका इम्पैक्ट प्राइसेस गिरने से, कमोडिटी प्राइसेस के सॉफ्टन होने से उस पर पड़ेगा। इसलिए इन्फ्लेशन को लेकर अब वो काफ़ी आश्वस्त है। हालांकि ऑब्वियसली एक नज़र रहेगी ग्लोबल फैक्टर्स पर। रियल जीडीपी फोरकास्ट जो है उसको 20 बेसिस पॉइंट कम किया गया है। 6.7% जो पिछली पॉलिसी में था उसको घटाकर 6.5% पर किया गया है। अगेन क्योंकि एक्सपोर्ट एक कंपोनेंट होता है और अगर ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी स्लो डाउन होगी तो उस वजह से एक इम्पैक्ट आएगा। उसके अलावा जो गवर्नर साहब ने स्टेटमेंट्स कही उसमें एक स्टेटमेंट जिस पर मार्केट ने थोड़ा रिएक्ट किया वो था गोल्ड लोन्स, जो गोल्ड एज कोलैटरल था उस पर कुछ और गाइडलाइंस उन्होंने कहा कि वो इशू करेंगे। तो एक बार मुथूट फाइनेंस का शेयर देखिए, वो एक बार के लिए स्टॉक काफ़ी गिरा, अभी भी स्टॉक करीब 3.5-4% नीचे है। ये अब तक की जो मैंने समझी मेन हेडलाइंस थी। विपिन जी, इसके अलावा और क्या कहा गवर्नर साहब ने और किन चीज़ों पर ध्यान रखना है हमको?
नहीं, बेसिकली जो सारे मेन पॉइंट थे आपने कवर किए। एक तो ये था कि रेपो रेट कट, तो उन्होंने कहा कि हाँ कट है और जैसे ही पॉलिसी को अब वो अकोमोडेटिव में लाए उन्होंने एक्सप्लेन भी किया कि इसके मायने क्या हैं। सो उनका कहना है कि आगे चलते हुए इसके दो मेन एस्पेक्ट होंगे। एक तो ये कि अब आरबीआई कोई रेट बढ़ाएगा नहीं, मतलब या तो स्टेटस को रहेगा या फिर कट आएगा, आपको कोई रेट बढ़ता हुआ नहीं दिखेगा। तो ये उन्होंने कहा। हालांकि एक बात उन्होंने क्लैरिफाई की कि इसका लिक्विडिटी से कोई लेना देना नहीं है। इस अकोमोडेटिव स्टांस का लिक्विडिटी मेजर्स वो अपनी जगह लेते रहेंगे, उसका डायरेक्ट नहीं है। लेकिन जहां तक रेट कट की बात है, अब ये या तो कट होगा या फिर स्टेटस को रहेगी। और बाकी उन्होंने जो आपने सही कहा कि उनकी बॉडी लैंग्वेज वाकई बहुत एक ऐसी थी जो हमें थोड़ा सा भरोसा देती है कि बहुत टर्मोइल है ग्लोबल सिस्टम में इस वक्त, लेकिन हमारा डोमेस्टिक सिस्टम बेहतर है। हाँ, थोड़ा सा उन्होंने ग्रोथ का फोरकास्ट ज़रूर कम किया, 6.5 पे ले आए 6.7 से। तो शायद अब हम आगे डीके जोशी साहब और हमारे दूसरे इकोनॉमिस्ट हैं साथ में, उनसे पूछेंगे कि इसका कितना इम्पैक्ट देखेंगे। और एक जो आपने गोल्ड वाली बात पकड़ी और एक यूपीआई पे भी उन्होंने कुछ कहा, थोड़ी और सफाई अभी जब उनकी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस होगी तो मैं आती हुई दिखाई देगी। लेकिन इनफैक्ट कुछ नया उन्होंने एक रेगुलेशन ऑलरेडी इंट्रोड्यूस किया हुआ है जिससे ऑलरेडी थोड़ा सा इश्यूज थे और शायद उसमें कुछ उन्होंने कहा है कि और वो हल्की सी सख्ती करेंगे, जो मैं देख पा रहा हूं अभी।
कौन सा रूल?
जब बैंक ये लेंडर्स को जो लोन प्रोसेस है वो थोड़ा टाइट करने के लिए कहा था। ऑलरेडी आरबीआई पहले ये कह चुकी है और इसकी वजह से ये हुआ कि गोल्ड लोन पे इंपैक्ट आया था, क्योंकि बोरोअर साइड पे थोड़ा टफ हो जाता है रीपे करना। तो शायद जो अभी और थोड़ा इसे टाइटन कर देंगे तो शायद कंपनी पे, इसीलिए आपको मुठूत पे के इम्पैक्ट आता हुआ दिख रहा है।
बिल्कुल, चलिए हमारा पैनल तैयार है, एक बार जरा आपको इंट्रोड्यूस कराते हैं। अब जो हमारे साथ नए गेस्ट जुड़े हैं उनसे, डीके जोशी जी जुड़े हैं हमारे साथ, मार्केट पर भी हमारी नज़र रहेगी। राजेश पाल भी हमारे साथ हैं, अभय अग्रवाल जी, सागर शाह, अवनीश जैन सब जुड़ने वाले हैं हमारे साथ। आप सभी